Alrighty. Oops. Chapter 2, an old friend approves or something like that. Okay, Dad. Regress? To deteriorate into an earlier state. Okay, fallacy? A logical flaw. Can't believe I'm being quizzed on vocabulary by my daughter. And qualification. Come on, Dad. Something you need to qualify? Like a law degree. Close enough. Can we stop now? Well, that depends. Promise not to stumble all over yourself like last time. Hey, I didn't do that badly in the end. I earned all the style points. Yeah, you were at least smart enough to not accept Euthyphro's ideas. Though, I could have done without the holy pun. I'm trying to keep our spirits up. I'm allowed to a bad pun or two. And this is your way of doing that? Arbiter, who's next? There are many philosophers in the intelligible realm. One, however, has come forth with the claim that he knows you personally. Knows me? Yes. But that makes no sense. How could he possibly know you? I don't know. Maybe one of my old fraternity friends became a famous philosopher without me knowing. One of your friends? I doubt that. Yeah, it loads between each chapter. You don't know how they did that in Flash, but it makes the game impossible to download. Really? Glad I'm playing it now, I guess. Well met, Socrates, my old friend and colleague. I believe I can help you on your quest to find the nature of morality. Great, thanks. Actually, I don't believe we've ever met before. What? Oh, come now, you must remember me. Look at this face. Surely a name comes to mind. Dumbledore? Wow. Protagoras. How could you have forgotten? We debated in Athens millennia ago. But I've never been to Athens. Are you not the great thinker Socrates? No, well, enough. Even if you have sadly forgotten me, old friend, I will be happy to share my lessons with you. Well then, let us hold our discussion together in our own persons, making trial of the truth and of ourselves. Simple elimination will demonstrate morality. Simple elimination will demonstrate morality can only come from one place. Your conversation with Euthyphro has demonstrated that morality doesn't come from the gods. And clearly, morality does not originate from the rocks and the trees. Thus, the only possible source of morality is human valuing. As you can see, man is truly the measure of all things. I hope my lesson was informative, my old friend. I've told you, Pythagoras, I don't know you. Chill, Dad. I don't think that was how they spelled his name. At least he's being polite. You don't know what will change if he discovers you're an accountant. And what is wrong with being an accountant? It's a perfectly acceptable profession. Well, Socrates Jones, what do you think? Has Protagoras found the nature of morality? Is he trying to bait me? I think I'd like to ask a few questions before I make that decision. How many chapters are there, Heels, if you know? Certainly, my friend. Ask away. All right, let's give this another go. All right, simple elimination will demonstrate morality can only come from one place. What do you mean by that? When all other possible sources of morality are eliminated, the one that remains is indubitably true. This is how I intend to go about proving my conclusion. Can you back that up? Give me time, old friend. I'm getting to it. All right. But is irrelevant? I'm describing the method that will be used to prove my thesis. Oh snap, time to philosophy. Hey, Sonomancer. Yes, indeed. Do you not remember how many chapters there are? Okay. What you think is that number. Okay. Your conversation with Euthyphro has demonstrated that morality does not come from gods. A little bit of a clarification. I know he's going to make fun of me, but he ain't going to be disrespectful. I think my statement is pretty clear. But if you need a reference source, please review your last argument. Alright, backing. Excuse me? I believe you said this yourself, did you not? Yeah, okay. We'll move on. Move on. Actually, no, we won't. We'll go with the relevance. The elimination of the gods as a source of morality is a key step in drawing my conclusion. Right. And clearly, morality does not originate from the rocks and trees. What do you mean by that? Morality is not derived from nature. The flow of the river, the movement of the clouds. Such things do nothing for our judgment. What about the circumference of the moon? Also irrelevant. Good to know. I knew that suggestion was ridiculous. Freaking Socrates Jones. Thus, the only possible source of morality is human valuing. This is the one right here where I feel like is the most challenging, because he is only given 2 examples, and then he's like, well, there's nothing else. Human valuing, what does that mean? My apologies, you see, morality is a matter of preference. As a result, it is different for each person. Therefore, whatever an individual believes to be right is right. Huh, okay. Whatever any individual believes is right for that individual. What evidence do you have to support that? It's the only remaining option, my friend. Is that not enough? Hold on, Protagoras. Yes, friend? Look, I understand what you are going for here, but I can't help but feel that an argument based entirely on elimination is a bit weak. I mean, no matter how many sources you eliminate, there is always the possibility that there are others you have overlooked. If I am to accept your argument, I would like it to be supported by something more. Indeed, I was just thinking the same thing. Yes, I suppose you have a point. You are just as insightful as I remember, Socrates. Very well, let me approach this lesson from a different angle. Hey, time to get is existential. Or something. When it comes down to it, morality is a matter of values. However, different people form different values. There are no things upon which everyone can agree. It would be arrogant to presume that any position is wrong. Thus, we can only conclude that morality is entirely relative. And there we go. Huh, how interesting. I like this argument. It says I can do whatever I want. That's not what he's saying. At least I hope not. Well, Socrates, once again, I'd like to ask a few questions. Of course, my friend. Ask away. Alright, is a matter of values. What do you mean by that? By values, I mean the personal preferences of individuals. For example, one may hold certain actions in very high esteem, noble sacrifice, for instance, while holding nothing but disgust for other actions like wanton thievery. If you truly are confused, I recommend you check a dictionary. Okay, you back that? I don't believe I need to, my friend. The definition of morality is values which distinguish between right and wrong, is it not? Well, I think my statement stands firm. All right, then. And relevance. As I mentioned before, human valuing is the foundation of my argument. Alright, however, different people form different values. Different values? Yes. People believe in different things. They have different preferences. You have to admit, Dad, that's pretty clear. Okay. What evidence do you have to support this? You just finished debating with Euthyphro. Tell me, what do you think he valued? Piety, the gods, and being a condescending jerk. Indeed. And do you value these same things? No. Exactly. You two built your moral systems upon different values. This is just one example. In the world, there are many more. Right. There are no things upon which everyone can agree. What do you mean by that? Not only may people's values differ, they may lead them to make entirely contradictory conclusions, much like the gods of Euthyphro. I find that hard to believe. Is that so? You remember our old Athenian democracy, do you not? Sure, why not? Well then, surely you must also remember that on most issues, people disagreed on what was the right way to vote. Some thought our penalties for crime were too harsh, while others thought our penalties were not harsh enough. Why, as you know, it was even argued that you should be put to death for speaking out. Wait, what? Each penalty added. Interesting. There are no things which everyone can agree. Okay, how is this related? Provides further support for my thesis that people have different preferences, my friend. It also shows the consequences of the previous premise. Premise. It would be arrogant to presume that any position is wrong. What do you mean by that? It is not our place to decide if another's moral perspective is wrong. Press for backing. Why would that be arrogant? Oh, come now. Do you really believe that we have the right to say that one who believes that eating beef is immoral is more correct than the one who is eating chicken? Wait, what? That is a rather silly example coming from an academic. As you can see, there is no way we can say that one moral system is better than another. I guess. The linchpin of my argument, really. As morality is subjective, we cannot assess others' opinions as a consequence. It also shows the consequences of the previous premise. That strikes me as worrisome. Okay, your face is ugly. Some people believe that those who speak out should be put to death. I think that is nice to go here. Nonsense! Hold it right there, old friend. I still can't buy your argument. You claim that it is impossible to say that someone else's values are wrong, but that is simply not true. Oh, come now, old friend. Not impossible, arrogant. Do you really believe we have the right? I'd like to put forth a different example. I wish they didn't do that. Like, I want to read, him, like trying to be whatever. You said yourself that there are individuals who believe that those who speak out should be executed, did you not? Of course. Well, I was thinking about the position of these individuals, and it occurred to me, without a free and open debate, we wouldn't even be able to discuss the things we are here. Oh, like we are here, like the things we're discussing in this moment. I was very confused there. Oh, excellent observation, Socrates. Thank you, Arbiter. Protagoras, for just a moment, consider the consequences of that argument. If free speech were punished so, society would stagnate, science and thought would come to a halt. Such side effects should not result from logical thinking. But, yeah. Free speech is one of many things now considered to be rights. Society is improved by their existence. Can you really argue that those who believe such things should be persecuted have validation? I hardly think it arrogant to express doubts in this position. Dad, this is actually kind of impressive. Indeed, well constructed, Socrates. The fact is, while you can argue that most things are based upon the individual, your philosophy falls apart when dealing with extremes. Such positions are indefensible, regardless of what an individual thinks. Twitch decided to let me know that it's officially 2077. And thus, morality cannot be entirely determined by the individual. Nonsense! Nonsense! I appreciate the energy, old friend, but you have raised some good points. I must confess, though, I'm a little confused as to why you have suddenly changed your position on free speech. Wait, what? The original Socrates was anti-free speech, Dad. Though, come to think of it, I didn't stop him from complaining when he was put to death for blasphemy. Everyone makes mistakes. Regardless, my counterpoint is solid, right? No, not quite. What? You raised some good points, but not perfect points. Give me a moment, and I will show you the flaws in what you just proposed. It is true, my friend, that most people agree on things such as free speech. However, that does not mean that such things are universal goods. For example, if one was to yell fire in a crowded theater, causing mayhem and panic, it is hard to see how that instance of speech would then be good. If morality is affected by situation, it cannot be objective. And there you have it. Rights, as a legal institution, may be good, but the morality of how you use them can vary. Very interesting points. Very well, Socrates. You may now ask Protagoras your questions. Of course, Arbiter. Okay. We're gonna skip the first one. I don't think I need to ask for any more clarification on that. Okay, but universal goods. What do you mean by that? Simply put, nothing is absolute. When we think something is a universal truth, we are probably failing to account for all possibilities. Okay? Can you back that up for me? Be patient, my friend. Okay. For example, if one will yell fire in a crowded theater, causing mayhem and panic. What do you mean by that? Yelling things to deliberately create panic hardly seems an unquestionable good, does it? That is all I'm trying to say here. You back that up? I really don't see what's wrong with yelling fire. Okay, you didn't have to say that, Socrates. What? Fire? Where? Darn it, Voltaire! Oh my god, we're all gonna die, we're already dead! Ah. Gentlemen, were we not, there is no fire. Socrates, refrain from causing unnecessary panic in the future. Sorry. Old friend, I believe you have just demonstrated my point. You should always have the right to speak carelessly. That does not mean doing so is good. Okay, providing an example. In this case, I chose my counterexample because it deals directly with your free speech example. Do we have anything to use? Okay. As morality is affected by situation, it cannot be objective. What do you mean by that? I think my statement is pretty clear, my friend. Your argument simply does not hold water. Morality still comes from the individual. Is that what he's saying? Back that up for me. I believe I just did. Okay, relevance. That is my conclusion. Is it? I mean, if I remember correctly, your philosophy is that morality comes from the individual, right? Yes, my friend, that is correct. I see. Protagoras, you have indeed raised an interesting counterpoint to mine. Thank you, old friend. Does that mean you are ready to accept the validity of my teachings? On the contrary, you see, you've also demonstrated why it would be foolish to do so. What? You just argued that morality can be affected by situation, correct? Yes. That actions that would be correct in one place would be incorrect in another. Indeed. Where are you going with this? Well, it's an interesting observation, but it runs against the grain of what you said earlier. For if morality is affected by situation, then there are clearly factors other than the individual that affect it. Aha! I forgot that particular part. Oh wow, that's right. I don't believe it. It seems to me you have two choices, but both have the same result. You could either maintain the assertion that morality is situation dependent and your philosophy is undermined, or you could retract it, thus giving credibility to my original complaint. But either way, the idea that morality is entirely individual is thrown into question. What do you have to say to that, Baka? Socrates, your rhetorical techniques have not dulled in all these years. Perhaps my position is indeed on shakier ground than I realized. You have given me much to consider. I could write a thesis on it all. And you too, Protagoras. You just may have been onto something with your idea that the correct action can change based on situation. Finding out why it does, that's going to be the hard part. Protagoras, you are dismissed. Thank you for your input. Thank you, Arbiter. Socrates, I believe you have it in you to win this greater wager. Just as you did before. Wait, what? Goodbye, my old friend. What did he mean, as you did before? Ah, I thought you would have figured it out by now. Huh? Taking on the Arbiter's challenge is no easy task. In fact, throughout all of time, only one has ever had his wish granted. Only one. Yes, your namesake. The great thinker Socrates, the wisest man in Athens.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe it.
Unlike the other philosophers, Socrates was never sure of his ideas. He was always questioning, always challenging himself and others in pursuit of the truth, never satisfied with any of the answers that were provided until he disappeared. Disappeared? Yes, without a trace. Simply vanished into the ether, never to be seen again. What happened to him? Was his wish to leave? No one is quite sure. The last person to see Socrates on this plane was René Descartes. And according to Descartes, the only thing Socrates said was, "I found it." He found it? The answer. Wow, that's my namesake. I really hope I'm not expected to live up to that. Just going to keep the mouse moving, okay? Mouse has stopped moving. All right. Chapter 3. Protagoras is such a bro. Protagoras. You know what? He was very nice too. He was like, you know what? I guess my argument is, not really working out. Let me go think on that. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, Euthyphro was like, you know what, sucker? I'm gonna make a call to a god of mine, and he's gonna bust you up. Well, the original Socrates may have bested the Arbiter's challenge, but that's 2 philosophers down, and I don't feel any closer to our goal. It always seems to be just out of reach, doesn't it? Do not worry, there are still near infinite perspectives to examine. In fact, I already have another philosopher ready for you to debate. Wonderful. So who's the next philosopher? Is it another Greek dude? Because frankly, I'm getting sick of Greek dudes. No, this one is British. Oh, how exciting. Yes, I am simply ecstatic. What's the matter, Socrates? Do you no longer wish to continue? Hold on. I never said that. Of course I wish to continue. Dad. Very well then. Give me a moment, Socrates, and I will bring the new philosopher out. Who's it going to be? Hello? Arbiter, are you sure this is the right guy? He isn't doing anything. Maybe he's dead. Well, technically. Humbug. He can speak. Of course I can speak, you silly girl. I just chose not to. You waste time with small words, and small words are the money of fools. That is, that? Hold on a second. I gotta write that down. That is a quote right there. Holy cow. Arbiter, who is this guy? He may refer to me as Thomas Hobbes, or Hobbies. However you want to go about it. Hobbes. You should know, Mr. Jones, that my mother gave birth to twins, myself and Fear. Oh, this guy is gonna be a gangster. By the end of the day, you will be thoroughly acquainted with both of us. Well, geez, isn't he a dramatic one? Hobbes, you may present your argument. Of course, Arbiter. Allow me to begin by describing to you the nature, or natural state of man. This guy's a beast. You struggled with this chapter? Oh, man. It's got a lot of quotes, and they're all really from the actual guy. Oh, man. This guy... I'm going to have to start writing some stuff down. In the natural state, men find themselves equal and in competition for resources. Being selfish, they will go to any lengths to achieve their desires. This sets them at odds with every other man, creating a constant state of war. Ceaseless conflict makes life nasty, brutish, and short. And there we go, the natural state of mankind. Okay. What does that have to do with morality? Mankind is selfish? But wait, you said nothing about morality. Hey! Of course not. In the natural state, there is no morality. There is nothing binding us to respect one another, nothing stopping us from killing each other. What? Well, that's depressing. And ridiculous. Of course there is a sense of right and wrong. Arbiter, there is no way this philosophy can possibly be the correct answer. You seem rather sure of yourself, Mr. Jones. Shall we put your theories to the test? Gladly. Careful. Alright, in the natural state, men find themselves equal and in competition for resources. Oh, give me a little more information. Left to their own will, men will all want the same things, but they cannot all get them. Okay. Can you support it? Mr. Jones, in the natural state, no man orders any other about. They all compete as equals using only their natural facilities. I don't know about that. The things we desire, food, water, and shelter, for example, they are not unlimited in quantity. The amount of people wanting vastly outstrips the quantity of the wanted. As a result, men must compete for their desires. Okay. They're related. The fact that men pursue their desires is the source of all human behavior, and as a result, my argument is dependent upon it. Okay. Being selfish, they will go to any lengths to achieve their desires. What do we have here? Your face is ugly. This might actually work on this guy. Always seek out the greatest benefit to the self. People often help each other in order to further the overall good. Okay. Alright, what do you mean by people being selfish? Men see what they want, and they will grub and squabble if necessary to get it, even to the extent of stabbing each other in the back. Back that up. Tell me, Mr. Jones, why do you stand here debating philosopher after philosopher? Do you simply do it for the fun of it? No, it's the only way I can get home. Exactly. Like all men, you are motivated by personal interest. So motivated that you will try something you, as an accountant, are not inclined to do. Think. Hold on, how do you know I'm an accountant? As you can see, my point stands strong. Okay, relevance. If men didn't wish to achieve their desires, there would be no conflict. Thus, their selfish pursuit is essential to my hypothesis. This sets them at odds with every other man, creating a constant state of war. What do you mean? Unable to achieve the same ends, men must fight to gain the upper hand. In such a world, force and fraud are only cardinal virtues. Yeesh, talk about a bleak view of humanity. Okay, get some backing. Can you support it? As men will do anything possible to achieve their goals, they all want the same thing, in the natural state that they have nothing to do but fight. Will two starving men ever let the other have the last slice of bread? Will two people in love with the same objective ever concede with ease? Of course not. In the natural state, when people want the same thing, they fight for it. Thus men are at war, always and forever. Is that so? Okay, we'll come back to this one. It seems like people work together would be quite beneficial here. Oops. Oops. I want to ask for relevance just in case. That's my conclusion, you fool. Alright, ceaseless conflict makes life nasty, brutish, and short. What do you mean by that? Everyone fights endlessly from the womb to the grave. This tends to lend itself to a low standard of living. Have any backing? Indeed, it comes in three parts. The first is that it is nasty. In the natural state, one of constant war, death is everywhere, disease, discomfort. The second is that it is brutish. With constant war, men are driven to do terrible things to one another, relying on brute strength to overcome one another. Instead of arguing with you, I'd be beating you over the head with a rock. And the third, that it is short. It's clear that long ago, when men lived in the natural state, their lives were much shorter than ours today. The average age of death was in the mid-20s. You would be considered a very old man indeed. And so my statement is supported. Relevance. It shows the consequences of my conclusion. It is important for one to consider the effects of their thoughts. But the effects of your thoughts are terrible. The world isn't perfect, Mr. Jones. I speak the truth, harsh as the truth may be. This portrait is so absolute and grim. I know it can't be right. Why is this guy so respected? There is no way this will win my way home. Be careful, Dad. Wish you would stop saying that. I can handle this. Just need to find the problem and point it out, so we can have a discussion with someone who actually knows what he's talking about. Okay. Alright, so we're going to challenge this one, and we're going to go with people work together, because people do work together.
Nonsense!
Hobbes, your argument here is about as weak as they come. You claim that people are in constant state of war, but I see people cooperate every day. Is that so? Yes. Societies are, in fact, built upon such cooperation. Employees in a businesses, I think that's a typo, collaborate to create a product. Construction workers get together to build a house. Police work together to take down criminals. Philosophers work together to find the truth. Exactly. Thank you, Arbiter. Well, Thomas Hobbes, if people were always at war, none of these things would be possible. Society as we know it wouldn't exist. What do you say to that? I say that you are merely an observer of the obvious, Mr. Jones. Huh? You insult my intelligence. Do you really think I hadn't considered such things? Your sense of morality is what allows us to cooperate in such a fashion. But wait, hold on. You said earlier there was no morality. Indeed, in the natural state, this is true. However, as such a state is extremely uncomfortable, we have long since moved beyond it. Allow me to explain to you, Mr. Jones, the step you have missed. At the core of mankind's self-interest is survival. However, in the natural state, there is no security. Thus, mankind is impelled to seek peace, forming contracts between individuals. It is from such exchanges that our sense of morality is born. And there you have it. Our moral rules, our society, our political systems, they all come from the social contract. A very compelling argument indeed. How did this happen? Thought for sure we were ready to move on. You walked right into that one, Dad. Helped him set it up and everything. Hobbes is one of the most prominent social contract philosophers. It's only natural he took his argument in this direction. What? You knew this? Why didn't you warn me? Sorry, I just assumed you knew. Already knew. I mean, it's not uncommon knowledge, you know. I've never heard of this guy, by the way. Is there a problem, Socrates? Or are you ready to accept the truth of my argument? Well, his argument is pretty solid now, that's for sure. It's something built on the premise so grim, I can't just accept it without examination. I'd like to ask Mr. Hobbes a few questions. Scholastic thinking. I hardly see the attraction in it. Come now, Hobbes. Very well, Mr. Jones. Give it a shot. Let's see how it goes. Okay. So, I think it's very clear here that mankind is selfish. I think that one is the one that's going to be used here. Because, well, let me see what he has to say first. But I think this one on the middle statement is probably where I'm going to go. All right. At the core, mankind's self-interest is survival. Above all else, we want to live. Power and knowledge don't mean anything to the dead. Unless you're stuck forever debating in some twisted philosophical afterlife. I have to get out of here. You back that up? Tell me, Mr. Jones, do you enjoy being dead? It hasn't been so bad, actually. Oh? Yeah, it's been great. I've been meeting cool people like you. I've been mistaken for a several thousand-year-old missing person. Of course I would rather still be alive. I need to live. I'm very lively, I'll have you know. I think most people at my age would do anything to stay alive, and I just made your point for you. Indeed, you have my gratitude, Mr. Jones. Relevance. Further defining the nature of man's self-interest, or rather prioritizing it, is essential to understanding the way our society works. However, or maybe it wasn't this point, maybe it was the last one. There is no security. What do you mean? In the natural state, anyone is free to do whatever they please. This includes actions which would cause harm to other people. If we were in the natural state and I felt the desire, I could kill you without consequence, Mr. Jones, assuming you were not already dead, of course. Is he threatening me? I hope you understand just how little security the natural state affords. Okay, backing. Our previous discussion illustrated the dangers of the natural state, Mr. Jones. But how can we know this state actually exists? It did, more or less, in the distant past. Before civilizations developed, ancient man was in much the same condition as he would be in the natural state. All of this is supported by archaeology, as well as the study of modern hunter-gatherer societies. Okay, relevance. Lack of security works in tandem with previously established desires to naturally lead to the next step, Mr. Jones. Thus, mankind is impelled to seek peace, forming contracts between other individuals. What do you mean by contracts? Indeed, this could use some elaboration. Very well, by contract, I refer to an agreement between individuals. In such contracts, we agreed to give up some of our personal freedoms, most notably our freedom to harm. Because others do as well, such an agreement confers onto everyone greater security. Huh, interesting. Okay, backing. You yourself gave countless examples of people working together. Do those not suffice? When the stronger man agrees to guard the weak in exchange for pay, in that instant, a contract is formed. Okay. Clarification on morality is born from exchanges? I mean to say that morality comes from the social contract. We form treaties, and these treaties determine what we are allowed to do. Backing. Assuming, as we have, that the natural state exists, and in the natural state man is free to do whatever he pleases, we can only conclude that the restrictive morality, as we know, comes from contracts formed between man. In relevance? It isn't. It isn't? No, it isn't. A conclusion is hardly related to itself, is it not? It just is. So, this is your conclusion. Why didn't he just say that? Alright, well, he's certainly good at this. He's famous for a reason, Dad. Are we finished, Mr. Jones? I can't show weakness with these people. They're like sharks. Has to be a problem here. This can't be the answer. Okay. So what is he saying that contradicts, or what is he saying that I can contradict with people being selfish? What is he saying that I can contradict with the natural state is everyone at war with each other? Oops, that is not what I wanted to do. That is not what I wanted to do. I was trying to like click out of it, but you can't do that. All right, so survival. Or in the natural state, there is no security. We form contracts, we give up freedoms in exchange for security. From such exchanges that our morality is born. Okay, Hobbes believes that man will always seek the greatest benefit to the self. According to Hobbes, in the natural state, every man is in constant war with each other. That is... I need to stop doing that. I really need to stop doing that. What did I even click on? Was it natural state? So, is it selecting over here? I don't know, but... Okay. This one is a little challenging. Self-interest is survival. I think you clicked natural state, yes? Okay. Or in the natural state, there is no security. Unless we form contracts agreeing to give up freedoms in exchange for security. The mutual forfeiture of rights creates a society where everyone is more secure, but most of the individual's benefits from the social contract come from the other people giving up their rights? That is correct. Interesting. There it is right there. I just needed... he clarified this one, I believe, and I didn't question it, so... mankind is selfish on this one because... You're not going to necessarily give up your rights to stuff.
Nonsense!
Hold it right there, Hobbes. I'll admit the individual parts of your philosophy sound good on paper, but they don't quite work so well when viewed as a whole. Is that so? Do explain. Gladly. Your social contract theory is based on the idea that people are selfish, correct? Indeed. And that they will go to any lengths to improve their own prosperity, correct? Which is why contracts must be formed. I'm a little confused. What exactly is the problem, Socrates? Isn't it apparent by now? If the only benefits of the social contract come from other people giving up their rights, and people are as selfish as you claim, what is there to stop these oh-so-selfish individuals from breaking a contract after it's made? I don't know if that's where I was going. Why, that is a very good question. Working off Hobbes' own theory of human nature, men will always seek the most advantageous situation. Well, the most advantageous situation for anyone would be that they keep their rights when others give them up. So why would people ever keep their contracts? They wouldn't. Of course not. Everyone would stab each other in the back the moment they could get away with it. Hobbes, your ideas, taken all together, are self-defeating. There is no way the social contract could be formed in the way you've described.
Nonsense! Objection!
Mr. Jones, you are getting carried away. Ha! I think I made good points. Laughter is nothing more than a reaction to sudden glory, Mr. Jones. And in your case, the glory you are reacting to is quite artificial. What? All of these things you are saying, they have occurred to me. They are, in fact, the obvious progression of thought. The fact that any self-interested man would break his contract is a problem, which is why I came up with the next step in the thought process. The next step? Without obligation, selfish individuals are indeed likely to break the contract. However, such obligation can easily be created by fear, namely fear of repercussions. This fear can, in turn, be created by empowering a sovereign. Such a ruler could then deal out punishments to those who break the contract. And as a result, the moral system of the contract would remain intact. And there we go. As you can see, Mr. Jones, my philosophy is quite sustainable. Social contract simply needs proper enforcement. Okay. You know what? I think I actually miss talking to Youthy Pro. Dad, are you going to be okay? I don't know if there's a problem here, Ari. I mean, we just need to find the nature of morality. Maybe this is it. Wow, do you honestly believe that? Do you think that morality is found in the rules dictators enforce? Well, no. Well then, keep looking. There has to be a flaw in his argument somewhere. Are you two quite done chatting over there? Yes, Arbiter. Sorry. Hobbs, you may have thought through my previous challenges, but my life depends on my only accepting the true nature of morality, and somehow, I just can't accept that this is it. Bah, humbug. Very well, Mr. Jones, I have all the time in the world. Examine away. And without obligation, selfish individuals are indeed likely to break the contract. He's just going off of what we said, so we don't gotta go through the nonsense again. But we might go through the nonsense again. However, such obligation can easily be created by fear, namely fear of repercussions. What do you mean by this? Fear repels us from its source. If breaking the contract was connected with something men feared, they would be compelled to respect it. So like a horde of zombies. Excuse me? Well, people fear zombies, so if breaking the contract was tied to unleashing zombies, I think my dad gets it. Let's move on. For once, we agree. Hey, can you back this up? Tell me, Mr. Jones, are you familiar with the concept of the Underworld? In Christian religions, fear of the Underworld is used as a major motivator in keeping the tenets of the faith. For many, it is an even more effective motivator than the promise of heaven. Spare the rod, spoil the child. There are countless situations in which fear is used to enforce the public good. Relevance. I'm describing the situation to the aforementioned problem. This fear can, in turn, be created by empowering a sovereign. What do you mean by this exactly? Simple. The people give power to a ruler who is able to enforce the contract. By give power, you mean form an agreement with. Indeed. As in a contract. Yes. In exchange for the power, he grants order and protection. Interesting. Sovereign forms a contract with people to enforce their rules. But what does the sovereign get out of it? There's an agreement between people and their protector. If the protector fails his duties, the people may rebel. In this way, the people form a contract with their ruler. This is relevant. Details the process in which the sovereign comes to have the power they need to solve the earlier detailed problem. Interesting. Such, a ruler could then deal out punishments to those who break the contract. What do you mean by that? Imprisonment, flaying, hanging. A ruler would have to be able to deal out justice as appropriate to those who deserve it. And can you back it up? You know what the law is, yes? Have you ever heard of the law without the government? The higher power of the sovereign is necessary for such enforcing systems to exist. This is related. I've already established that fear is essential to the contract, and that I believe that a sovereign is essential for creating this fear. Here I've detailed why and the how. And as a result, the moral systems of contract would remain intact. What do you mean by this? The sovereign provides the obligation the social contract needs to survive. Let me back it up. Our society hasn't fallen apart yet, has it? So man, for all his inadequacies, must be doing something right. Relevance is my conclusion. Have we found anything yet, Dad? I'm thinking, okay? I know there is a problem here, I can feel it. But where is it? Back to the top. Okay. So if every contract requires obligations powerful enough to enforce its morals, what is forcing the sovereign? He alluded to this by saying that they rebel. But there are contracts where the rebelling doesn't do anything. So let's go through from the top here. Well, let's not go from the top. Let's re-clarify this one. Alright, the people agree to obey the sovereign. They give him power. In return, the sovereign punishes those who disobey the social contract. What do you have to support the statement? There is an agreement between the people and their protector. If the protector fails his duty, they may rebel. Okay, we already did that one. Okay, so let's just go down the list here. Or let's go up the list, because the natural state one is a little difficult. Alright, so the contract needs to be enforced. Every contract requires obligations powerful enough to enforce its morals. If a sovereign is agreeing, or if a group is electing a sovereign to enforce the rules, then the sovereign's fear is that the electors are going to rebel, and the electors are using the fear of punishment to keep the contract, basically. So theoretically, the contract needs to be enforced doesn't necessarily apply right now. Necessarily. So far. People work together. People often help each other in order to further the overall good. Why would somebody... Let's see. They're electing the sovereign. They're forming this contract with the threat of punishment to benefit everybody there. So people working together doesn't necessarily further the argument here. Mankind is selfish. Hobbes believes that man will always seek the greatest benefit to the self. His whole argument is basically hinging on these contracts are forming so that each of them gain the benefit that they so desire. So, you know, that kind of works. This is actually a great explanation of the early appeal to systems of government consisting of one ruling entity, such as monarchy or dictatorship, and also at breaking down some of the flaws of those same systems. But his argument isn't that rebellion enforces contracts, it's that sovereigns do. If everything's run on rebellions, that's right back to the natural order. Hmm. So, if the only thing keeping the sovereign in check is rebellions, then the natural state would be the threat. And his whole argument is that morality doesn't really exist. It's only like a made-up contract or a contract between ourselves to continue to be selfish, which keeps us at war with each other. The only issue, though, is, like, I kind of want to natural state this. But I don't think that... I don't see the end game for that. Meanwhile, if I were to... This one is actually really tough. This one is actually really tough. He does have kind of what feels like an ironclad argument in this particular instance. Think of it this way, the natural state is obviously a non-ideal existence, so a contract is made between men. You think you had it as your first impressions, and you talked yourself out of it? This is something that I do. And something else that I do is I forget where I was going. So my initial impressions are long gone. Okay. Let's retrace our steps here. I feel like my initial arguments were basically, what is keeping the sovereign from doing what they're supposed to do? And this guy is saying the threat of rebellion is that. And I did pick up on that earlier. The threat of rebellion does not seem like a valid thing there. You know, if I go to help you paint the house and you decide that you're not going to help, I'm not really good with analogies, but y'all know where I'm going with that. So if I want to go about it that way, that there's no real consequences for the sovereign, then that would mean that there are not obligations powerful enough to enforce its morals. Threat of rebellion is not enforcing a contract by his definition of how enforcing works. Ah. And this is the one where he talks about rebellion or rebelling, I believe. Yes. Okay, so before I go there, I want to better understand, because I might have just glossed over. I'm not really good at remembering things. I'm going to choose contract needs to be enforced here, and we'll see where that takes us. But why doesn't rebellions meet his criteria? Let's see. Think of it this way: the natural state is obviously a non-ideal existence, so a contract is to be made between men. But there's no way to enforce those contracts. So now another contract has been made between people and a sovereign. Because that's where I'm not getting at. Like, yeah, a rebellion does not fit. Like, I get that it doesn't fit, but why doesn't it fit his argument is not. I'm not. I haven't seen that yet, or rather, I haven't come to that conclusion. His argument is that a sovereign needs to exist to enforce contracts. If you're using force, rebellion, then you're proving you don't need a sovereign. The line you think of to really handle this is, who watches the watchers? And like that was how I was going about my particular line of thinking as well, is that, the sovereign is very unchecked in this particular thing, and a rebellion doesn't work in all circumstances. I guess I just don't fully understand the proving to not need a sovereign part. But if sovereign exists to defeat the natural state, and the natural state is the way to defeat a sovereign, how can you say one is moral? Okay. Interesting. Contracts on contracts would have to be made in order to supersede potential abuses of power, band-aid morality. Interesting. Okay. So let's go ahead and try contracts need to be enforced here and see where we go. Could be natural state too. I think either one of those could be interesting.
Nonsense!
Hobbes. I will admit that your philosophy is very interesting from a political perspective, but as a basis of morality, it simply won't stand.
Nonsense!
Mr. Jones, even now you lack sensible qualities such as fear. Haven't you learned not to make such brash statements?
Nonsense!
The double nonsense. The triple nonsense. Brash? This time I think not. Boys, enough grandstanding. Get to the point. Hobbes, you said that the source of your obligation to the social contract is in the pressures laid upon us by the sovereign. Is that correct? Yes. And the sovereign's power to apply such pressures comes from the contract between him and the people, yes? Absolutely. Well then, Hobbes, answer me this. What obligates the king to follow his contract with his people? You may have added a layer of obligation, Hobbes, but you haven't fixed anything. The problem is still exactly the same. The king, being selfish, will take advantage of his people. And we are back to where we started. No matter. Just another moment of your time, and I will lay out what binds the king to his contract. Oh, here we go.
Nonsense!
Oh, you bodied. I don't need to hear it, Hobbes. What? How dare you? The fact is, we can do this forever. I can continue to point out the lack of obligation in your morality, and you can attempt to provide a source. You are curing the symptoms, but not the disease. The question you need to answer is not what obligates the king. If the source of obligation is the social contract, then it can only be another contract. Instead, answer me this. What obligates us to keep our contracts? What makes them the source of morality? Can you answer this, Hobbes? Well, Dad, you actually stumped him. This is the core of your problem, Hobbes. Morality based on contracts leads to an infinite regression of obligations. Thus, it cannot possibly be the true source. Wow, Dad, let's see him counter that. Well, Hobbes, how can something that requires obligation be the source of all obligation? It just doesn't make sense. Your philosophy is hobbled, Hobbes. Wow. Wow. Well, you see, preposterous. The sovereign will, the fear it creates in us a mechanical drive Humbug. I think we broke him. Socrates, do you know what my last words were before I died? Now I'm about to take my last voyage, a great leap into the dark. I desire rest, a life finally free from fear and discomfort. I did not wish to be trapped in this realm, debating for all eternity. Accepting the Arbiter's challenge was a foolish choice, Mr. Jones, but needless to say, I can understand why you did so. And ignorant as you are, you have given me reason to re-examine my principles. I shall now take my leave. All right. This really takes you back. To be fair, your confusion just now is exactly what you struggled with in this chapter. Okay. It's good to know that, like, I had the right idea, but getting there is really tough because I've mentioned this in basically every other argument that I've done that, I can see the end, but how Socrates Jones is presenting his argument and kind of going around it is not where I was going with it. But in the end, we come to the same conclusion. We're just taking entirely different paths to get there, which is very, very interesting. But that one was definitely a tough one. It definitely felt like an infinite circle of, you know what? It was. Because it was an infinite circle, I was trapped in that circle. And that's how his argument works. Well played, video game. Well played. Well played. You got me. Music's so good. The music is actually, it's kind of hitting too. For being such a tool, Hobbes was a gracious loser. Yeah, still better than a Eufy Fro. All right, let's get into this. Chapter 4, I'm going to mark this.